Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 10. At least I think it's week 10. I'm losing track. Anyway, it's Halloween night. If the doorbell rings, I'm going to stop and just leave it in there because I got to get these done and get them up. Anyway, it's SLIS 757, Young Adult Materials, and tonight we're going to be talking about book talking, which is one of my favorite things to do and one of my old standbys for getting kids to check out books. It's really effective. So here we go. All right, this week our learning outcomes. In this class, you'll be able to learn about technology resources for young adults, learn about book talks and book trailers, and learn additional details about the book talk assignment. First, I want to make sure that you're aware of Teen Tech Week. It is a national initiative sponsored by YALSA. It's obviously aimed at teens, but also their parents, educators, and other adults. It began in the year 2007, and the general theme is to get connected at your library. It is held annually during the second week of March. However, I want to sort of encourage you to incorporate technology throughout the year, but Teen Tech Week is a great sort of promotional week where you can focus on technology and have little stations in your library or do just try to attract more energy and more ideas into your library. I have used little robots. I have used green screen things in my library during Teen Tech Week. And then I've done some low-tech things where they built things with marshmallows and cups, which is kind of silly, but it's also, I mean, you just get kids interested any way you can. So Teen Tech Week. Oh, and coding. Yes, you can do stuff with coding. That's also a great thing to be promoting. All right, so Teen Tech Week, this next one coming up is Check In at Your Library. It is the week of March 3rd through 9th, 2019, so you have some planning time. Mark that on your calendar if you're already in a library. This is a great way for you to do a promotion. It's already canned. You can use other people's ideas and you don't have to think too much. I like the YALSA or ALA stuff just because it's like, oh, well, I can just put it on the calendar and execute without having to be super creative. I like to be creative, but I run out of energy. So, Teen Tech Week encourages libraries to throw open their physical and virtual doors to teens and showcase the outstanding, astounding, and awesome technology they offer, from services such as online homework help and digital literacy-focused programs to resources like ebooks, movies, music, audiobooks, databases, and more. I don't have all of that in my library, but I know some of you work in public libraries and offer other services and cool things. So you might want to join or check out the Teen Tech Week Ning if you're not familiar with the word Ning. It is just an online community that is focused on our specific interest. So for Teen Tech Week, you would find free publicity resources, 25 easy tips for teens for using technology, book lists and media lists, event and activity ideas. Like I said, it's so awesome when someone else comes up with ideas for you. So you just go, oh, that sounds cool, and you can do it in your library. And a Teen Tech Week pamphlet. There are lots of online resources for young adults, their librarians, and their teachers. Of course, there's YouTube, but be careful with that, and it might be blocked at your school. SchoolTube and TeacherTube, good books, library thing, and of course blogs. Hopefully you've checked out some blogs as you've gone through library school or as you go through. It's a great way to sort of keep yourself up to date. There are also great online resources like I'm in the Future Ready Librarians Facebook group. They have people post awesome ideas every day, and I just sort of save things and then go back and look later. Here's a list of helpful technology resources for you. The 30 Positive Uses of Social Networking, that's a PDF. The Librarian's Social Networking Toolkit. I need to review that. I'm not much of a social networker. I do use my library webpage. I do Instagram for my library, but I have been slack using it. I need to get on that a little bit more. Anyway, the Teen's Guide to Social Networking brochure and YALSA online resources. Here is just a plethora of information and ideas for you to use as far as using technology, integrating it in your program, promoting your stuff, just some good ideas. There are interactive multimedia series. The 39 clues for middle grade readers, though strangely had some high school kids ask me to purchase those for my high school library quite recently, and I may go ahead and do that. The young adult novel Kathy's Book and the series Skeleton Creek and the Amanda Project. This is a new literary format for young readers. I have seen kids engage, obviously, with the 39 Clues. I have not seen kids really engage with the others, but I also haven't promoted any of these. I will tell you that my own children are a little bit old-fashioned and were not interested in the multimedia format, but they grew up in my household with lots and lots of traditional type of reading, so it might be my fault. You should look for book talks that are podcasts, vodcasts, and book trailers and other web-based YA resources. It's a great way of engaging 21st century learners through book talks and technology. It accesses the new literacies that students possess. It's a great way of marketing books and reading through using popular media. A lot of state organizations create book talks or book trailers. I will say that many publishers create book trailers that you can find online. So be aware of those resources. I have used publisher-based book trailers in my library club just to promote some stuff that maybe I haven't read yet, or things that are new, or the South Carolina Book Award nominees, so that kids can browse those more effectively, because it usually takes me a little while to get through them all, so I don't want to book talk them, but using a canned trailer is a great way to promote them. So what are book talks? They are a form of reader's advisory. They should be a convincing sales pitch to sell reading and to whet a young adult's appetite to check out and read a book or books or something that you're book talking. The book talker is the writer, producer, and director. The cardinal rule is sell, don't tell, don't give away the hook. You want to reveal a little bit of the hook, but not the resolution. The average length is 3 to 4 minutes per title, though a lot of mine are a little bit shorter than that. If you can just set up the situation and the hook and then go bing, that's it, and move on to the next one. Top reasons for book talking. It increases the number of books that teens read and it increases your circulation. I can vouch for this for sure. I'm a big book talker. It promotes the library and the classroom as a place for recreational reading. It allows teens to see you in a different light. It makes you accessible. I just find kids talk to me a lot more after I've done a book talk. I'm a very introverted person, so it's hard for me to do the outreach, or it's not my first foremost skill. And so book talking puts me out there in front of kids so that I'm accessible to kids. I always have more kids ask me for help after I've done a book talk. It's nice. And it allows the librarian or teacher to serve a group of students, and you have a captive audience, which is always kind of fun. More top reasons to book talk. You can reach the non-library user. Sometimes I get kids who are like, oh, I don't normally like to read, but that sounded good. That's just a win for everybody. You can get the non-classroom reader, so kids who won't read what's assigned sometimes will check something out from you. That's a good thing. It's got to start somewhere. It is an incredibly effective method for promoting reading and engaging, and just getting kids to engage with books at all. It increases the audience's awareness of the library or the library classroom as a resource. It's just an amazing promotional skill. It really does. It makes you more accessible for your teachers, for parents, if they ever want to, and for kids, students, your patrons. It's great. And it allows the librarian teacher to build relationships with teens, which I just said. Anyway, I'm not kidding. I have kids talk to me a whole lot more after a book talk. It's just really effective. So how do you start? Start small. Start with one on one day or something. I kind of enjoy it when I have 3 or 4 in one day and then plow through a whole bunch of books. But some ideas to get you started. You might do types, so a theme. Obviously, today is Halloween, and I have done a whole bunch of horror, terror, spooky ghost story book talks in the past week to just sell kids on. I got a whole bunch of ghost stories that I didn't even realize I had. Anyway, that's a great theme. You can also do multicultural, you could do graphic novels, you could just pick any type of theme, but horror was fun for this week. Plot. You can focus on plot. This, and this happens, and then give them a little bit of the cliffhanger and leave them hanging. You can focus on character. You want to get the voice of the book, that first person voice. I wonder if any of you have read Knocked Out by My Nunga Nungas. I like to read something from that. It's an incredibly silly book, but you get an idea how silly the book is, and then kids are enticed by that. Or the scene. Details like this work well with adventure novels, especially if the characters go all over the place. Or if it's a fantasy book, you can offer a setting. Styles that you can do. So you can do a book talk style and give them cliffhangers for all of your things, like the phone call in Wolf Rider by Avi. I just killed someone. I killed Nina. Sometimes a very short book talk is really effective. I like to vary the length, so some of them are longer and some of them would be really short, just like using that first line from Wolf Rider. You can ask a question or have multiple books that pose some sort of question. So if you were going to book talk Monster by Walter Dean Myers, you could say, is there ever a right time to not tell the truth? I find that book very easy to sell. I just tell kids that I started it one day after school and then looked up at 5:30 and almost forgot to pick up my kids because it was so good, and that my palms were sweating when I was done reading that. I have a good track record selling books when I tell the kids that I have had an emotional response, so that could be one style you use. Another book or another style you could use is also becoming the character. You can act as if you were, say, Melinda in Speak. If you haven't read that, you really should. She says, I am an outcast. Her voice is really authentic and quite funny, even though the topic is very serious in Speak. Her description of teachers is great. I have also, I've done a book talk using types where teachers are made fun of in multiple books. So The Education of Robert Nifkin is one title where he makes fun of teachers. Obviously, Speak is another one. I Love You, Beth Cooper is another. So you've got books where teachers are mocked and kids are interested in that too. So it's just, there are all sorts of ways you can tie books together to do your book talks. Do's for book talking. Have realistic expectations. Kids, the poor things, they have to sit in chairs for so darn long. At least at my high school, we're block scheduled and the classes are an hour and 35 minutes. Good golly, don't make them sit that long. Have books available for checkout. If you have books that are super popular, it's sometimes nice to have multiple copies. Like I like to book talk something called Trigger. I think it's by Susan Vaught. It's funny and tragic at the same time. And when I book talk that one, I actually have 4 copies, maybe 5. Anyway, I always get multiple kids who are like, oh, I want that, I want that. So it's nice that I have more than one copy. Though usually if I have several book talks in one day, I have to restock. Memorize your talks or have notes. I very often put bookmarks in the books to mark where I want to read something out of it. I can also talk off the cuff pretty well now, but I've been doing this for over 20 years, so it depends on how comfortable you are in front of a group. You're going to want to vary the themes and the types of talks. I do standard book talks with different themes throughout the year. I also have done genre tables. I've done romance book talks. And you might want to keep records of your book talks. I actually sort of have a schedule at this point. I start off with standard book talks, do that a couple times. I do genre tables. I do book love letters later in the year. Speed dating around Valentine's Day. Anyway, whatever works for you, but you want to try and vary your approach with students. You want to start strong and end strong, so you might pick your 2 favorite books to start and end with. Also, learn from your mistakes. If you book talk a book and it's a great book, but it doesn't move, rethink how you're book talking it. Notes for Book Talking by Gorman. I'm going to disagree with some of these. Anyway, don't book talk books you have not read. I break that rule occasionally. I will tell the kids I haven't read it, but if it's a book that has been jumping off the shelf, I might read the inside cover and say, all my kids are asking me for this. This is super popular. I haven't read it yet. You can read it and tell me what you think. That very often sells a book. I would not try to book talk a book you do not like. That's not really effective. It's hard not to show your distaste or your displeasure. Try not to book talk books if you don't have multiple copies. Some of you may have very limited budgets. That's not much you can do about this. So I would recommend not book talking books if you don't have multiple copies, but that might not be under your control. Don't give away the ending or the surprise. Don't give a book review. You don't have to oversell. If you've done a good little hook, it'll sell itself. I don't agree with don't read aloud. Sometimes I will read aloud. You don't want to read aloud too long. It should be brief if you're going to read aloud, but sometimes a read aloud gives the best impression. I highly recommend reading a little bit if it is complex text so that students have an idea of what they're getting into. I think that's helpful. Don't be boring. That should be obvious. I'm going to add another thing here. Don't be nervous. If they don't like the book, they're not going to check it out. Oh well, carry on. All right, some reference material or some books for you to consider if you're just getting started or if you've been doing it for a while and you just need a refresher. Books about book talking by Joni Brodart, Radical Reads. I have that. I don't have Radical Reads too. Book Talks Plus I also have. You might want to look at 10 Tantalizing Tidbits for Teens. How's that for alliteration? And some more tantalizing tidbits. These are good resources for making book lists or ideas for themes or styles or ways to link books together in other ways or character links. So if you're having trouble making connections or coming up with the first few book talks, these are great things to get you started. Or if your book talking has gotten stale, check these out. There are websites about book talking. You can go to the book talking tips from the LMNet listserv, or you can check out the Scholastic Book Talks. Other websites about book talking, you can see 5 book talks about Speak from Book Talks Quick and Simple, so you can have some different ideas about how to present that book. You can check out Fran Bullington. She has a spreadsheet for organizing book talks. She's at Boiling Springs High School in Spartanburg, and she is also a SLIS alumna. All right, and we're going to go on to the next lecture, but I suspect I will not get that up until Thursday evening as I'm pretty pooped. So I'm going to finish this off, look for the next lecture Thursday, but I'm going to try to get the PowerPoint up for you at the very least, so you'll see both PowerPoints up and one lecture up by the end of Halloween. All right, I hope you've stayed safe and have not gorged yourself on too much chocolate, and more to follow tomorrow. All right, thanks, bye.